Hello and welcome to the RevRx podcast, where we discuss how to have success in faith, family, and life. My name is Chad Potts, and I'm your host. And in today's episode, we're taking a deep dive into what it really looks like to thrive as a man, father, and a husband. You may be thinking, I'm none of those things. And that's okay, because this is not a podcast just for men. The principles still apply across the board. But today, we're interviewing none other than the legendary Larry Hagner. You see, Larry is the founder of Dad Edge, which is a movement that's changing the game for men who want to lead their families from a place of purpose and authenticity. Today, we're going to unpack what it really looks like to have success, what that really means. We're going to talk about what holds people back from reaching their ultimate potential. We're going to talk about how to step into your role as the man or woman that you were called to be. And we're going to learn how to redefine our life and our legacy. If you're interested in becoming the very best version of yourself, being the very best you, then this is a conversation you don't want to miss. So I introduce to you my friend, Larry Hagner. Larry Hagner, the man, the myth, the legend.
Chad, what's going on?
Thanks for joining me today, brother. What a privilege to have you on the RevRx podcast.
Man, hey, I appreciate that, but the privilege is mine. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for giving your time for this and for me this morning, and thanks for what you're doing in the world, man. Thanks for what you're doing for your audience, and obviously giving them this incredible resource. So appreciate you.
Yeah, sure. I've loved the work that you've done. You're an author, you're a coach, you're so much more than that. You're a podcaster, have a very successful show. But I'd love for my listeners just to know, who is Larry Hagner? Can you tell us a little bit about your story? Just help us get to know you a little better.
Yeah, for sure, man. So the first thing I always tell people, I'm a husband and father first. You know, that is what I do. That is my job. That is my purpose. That is my role. And been married to my amazing wife for the past 21 years.
Awesome.
First half of our marriage, I mean, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, it was not pretty, but things are, they couldn't be better. I mean, my wife and I, just last night, we went to a concert. And like, I just still, to this day, man, I look at her and I'm just in awe, I'm just and just love the time we spend together, love our connection. But it did not come easy. It came with a lot of work.
Sure.
I'm the father of 4 boys. I have an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And, it's about as much energy as you could possibly think it is. It's a fraternity house in my house.
Sure.
So, my story, pretty interesting story. I'm happy to go into details
Sure.
that are deep if you like, but 30,000 foot, my mom, biological father were married young, had me at 4 years into their marriage. Right after I was born, I went through a horrible divorce. My dad left. I didn't know him. Didn't know any father figure. It was just me and my mom for about 4 years. And then when I was about 4 years old, she got remarried. And I thought that's how dads actually came along, was moms go out and find dads. And my dad, that guy adopted me. And that's why I have the last name that I do.
Wow.
And they were together for 6 years. And it was very toxic, very crazy, very, like a lot of abuse and a lot of craziness between them. I mean, cops were called to my house quite a bit because of fighting. And it was a horrible, toxic relationship. They got divorced when I was 10. I've never seen him since. He left, and then I started asking a lot of questions. Found out I actually had a biological father. I did not know that. And actually had the opportunity to meet him when I was 12. And we had a very brief relationship. He actually lived 3 miles from me. I didn't even know it. He was remarried at the time. 2-year-old son, another one on the way. And about 6 months into our relationship, he decided it wasn't for him anymore, and we parted ways. And my mom continued to date, and she got remarried again, and she got married 3 times, and just dated. It was like the same guy, same traits, partier, abuser. It was just that was the guy she attracted. Unfortunately, and I don't think she meant to, but I grew up, and it was crazy, man. I'm not gonna lie, and I really. Despite my past, I mean, I failed the 8th grade. I got really, really fat, but I turned all that around and graduated high school, went on to college, got a degree in health and fitness, and got a minor in nutrition, and went on to medical device sales. I got married to Jessica in 2003. We had our first son in 2006, and I also was reunited with my biological father that same year, which was kind of crazy. We ran into each other at a Starbucks in St. Louis. Had not seen him since I was 12 years old. He came walking in to get his morning coffee, and as fate would have it, holy cow, our worlds collided, and that was 19 years ago. We've had a relationship ever since, and Dad Edge got started because like I wanted better than what I had in my childhood. I just had no clue what to do. And the best way I can describe it is I knew everything of what not to do. Like I didn't know what to do, but I knew everything what not to do. But that was really, really defeating because it's almost like you go to Home Depot, you get that brand new smoker, you open up the box and the instructions say, hey, here's 100 ways not to put this together, but best of luck figuring it out. And that's horrible, right? So in 2012, my son, who's 16 now, is 4. He stepped out of line, and I broke the one promise that I made to myself, which is I'm never going to hit my children out of anger. And I spanked him, and unfortunately, I spanked him so hard he hit the ground, and that was it for me. That was totally it for me. I was like, I've got to figure this out. I got to turn this around. I don't know what I'm doing. And I just went on a journey of learning, and I started a blog called Good Dad Project, and I just started writing about it, just started being a student of it. 2015, started Good Dad Project podcast, just because I got tired of writing and I wanted to interview people and just really understand, like, extract expertise in all of these areas, for marriage and parenting and mindset and health and leadership and all these different things. And I had about 10 good ideas for a podcast. And after that, I was like on God's good humor. And here we are. I think this morning I looked and we were at 1,219 episodes. It's really crazy, and still learning, still face planning, still have great wins, every single day, and great mistakes every single day. That's the journey. But did I ever think I'd be doing this full time? No, I thought it was going to be a therapeutic hobby, but here we are, and it's been unreal, man. That's right.
So thanks for sharing that story with us. And, I love your vulnerability. Like you're able to just say, hey man, I don't have this all figured out, but I'm a lot further down the road than I used to be. And I want to help other people do that too. In my line of work, both as a pharmacist and as a pastor, I meet men every day who are just broken. But here's the thing, and maybe you can kind of hit on this a little bit. We as men don't like to ask for help, do we?
Nope. That's like, I think that's one of the things that that is one of the things we struggle with the most. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, we need the help. And a lot of the men that I've talked to in my journey, they realize that they could use some assistance. They could use a guide on this journey. And that's really what you're serving as a guide on this journey of manhood. They realize they need a guide, but there's things that keep us from asking for that help. What's been your experience with men and being able to kind of help them take that next step to say, okay, it's okay to ask for help. It's not weakness. As a matter of fact, I can be my best version of myself with someone like you coming along the journey. What's been your experience with that?
It's been varying degrees, right? Mm-hmm. And so first of all, I think let's just identify the perception of men asking for help, right? If we feel that we are not executing at the highest level possible, which by the way, if you ask most men, I mean, very few men do. I'm like, hey, are you executing at the highest level? And people are like, oh yeah, I've reached the top of the mountain.
You're right. Yeah.
Like, there's always that next rung of the ladder that we're trying to achieve, no matter what, right? So I think this feeble attempt to get to the top, in our community, we call them the white hammer and the black hammer. So, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Up here in my office, I have a black hammer, right? And what does this black hammer represent? The black hammer represents kind of like a black belt, in different areas. And if you think about it, we are a white belt, or you call it like the white hammer, which is you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, whatever, you got the wooden hammer, right? It's lightly colored. It usually has like, a metal stainless steel type of top. This one has a black one, but that's like your white hammer, right? And everyone is in a white hammer situation in their life somewhere, right? They're beginning something somewhere along the lines. It could be like, I'm just starting jujitsu, or I suddenly have an 18-year-old. I've never had that before, right? Or suddenly this is my 20th year in marriage. I've never been married for 20 years. So like, what is the next 10 years? Like that's now the white hammer, right? The black hammer represents, well, what am I actually chasing now?
Yeah.
what am I actually trying to go out and achieve? And if you think about that, like, we're always trying to achieve, we're always trying to get fitter. We're always trying to get wealthier. We're always trying to grow, our knowledge base. We're always trying to deepen our relationship with our wives. When we stop chasing black hammers, that's when we get in trouble. That's when we get in trouble, because that's when we take our foot off the gas. That's when we actually go to sleep, right? And this is where, unfortunately, we kind of wake up and we're like, wait a second, I need some help. Right. And we never asked for that help along the way. What I can tell you is the journey of chasing whatever black hammer, in your life, or black hammers, right? It actually becomes a lot more effective and efficient if you have a community of people who are like-minded and like, let's all go get this together. Right. Not you chase this all by yourself, which, by the way, you're going to lose your way, pretty quickly. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So
that's good.
I really I want to flip this whole perception of like asking for help is weak.
Yes.
Because it's actually the opposite. If you don't ask for help, man, that is weak. You have no courage. You have no balls. And that's really what it boils down to, because the man who says, I can't do it on my own, I need some help, that's actually the courageous man.
Yeah.
That's the strong guy, right?
That's the winner.
That's the winner. Here's the other thing too. When you're in a crowd or a group, right? And you're like, hey man, I don't have this all figured out. Do you know what the rest of the guys are actually saying to themselves, or even out loud, is like, dude, I'm so glad you were the one to say that. I didn't want to say it, right? So let's flip that perception on its head of like, what's actually going on here? That's what's actually going on here. But what is the result? What's the fruit of that, right? The other thing too that I think is really powerful and meaningful is that studies don't lie and data does not lie, right? So when we ask for help or we ask for accountability, do you know if we have an idea for a certain goal, we only have a 10% chance of actually achieving whatever that is. So like, for instance, if I'd be like, you know what, I want to achieve 75 hard. And right now, as you and I are talking, I'm on day 45. Yeah, I want to achieve that. I have a 10% chance just by saying like, I want to do that, or thinking that is actually going to happen. I have a 95% success rate if I am in a daily accountability text, phone call, check-in, or something, right? And I have 2 accountability partners that I check in with every single day. Morning and then the evening. This is my plan. In the evening, did I do it? Oh, by the way, here's my progress pic. Boom. Right? I am not going to let those guys down, right? Those guys aren't going to let me down. This is how we actually help each other, is holding each other to a high level, right?
That's so powerful.
Operating. It is, and it's contagious too at the same time. So let's do away with this whole thing of like, I don't need help and asking for help is weak. No, you're actually going to be successful because you actually invited help in.
Absolutely. And I've grown up, and maybe you can relate to this too, but I've grown up in the era of men don't ask for help. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You can do this on your own. Push forward. Just keep trying. And some of that has validity, but 100%. We are not supposed to live this life alone. We're not supposed to do this alone. Community makes a big difference. And so I'm a stats guy. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
The issue, 10% success versus 95%. Like, you can't argue with that.
You can't.
So powerful. So powerful. Let's shift gears just a little bit. One of the things I like to ask different guests, and I want to get your perspective on this, is how would you define success? Kind of a loaded question, but everyone kind of answers this differently, and I think it's worthwhile to see people's perspectives of what success means to them. So, to Larry Hagner, what does success look like?
Success, I think it's really in 4 areas of our life. Right. So let's start with our physical being and what success really looks like. Right. My picture of success and other people's picture of success might be totally different. Right. My picture of success is I want to be battle ready in my body. Right. At all times, which means success for me is 168 to 178 pounds, sub 10% body fat, doing jujitsu twice a week, doing fitness every single day, something to to make my body fitter, stronger, faster, and
Mhm.
fueled, right? So that's in my body. And there's a lot of overflowing things that happen when you do things like that, like your emotional health, your mental health,
Yeah.
even your spiritual health, in my personal opinion, that moves the needle. And I'll tell you, fitness for me, so like the foundational thing for me is my faith and my body, right?
Mhm.
So like my relationship with my creator and my fitness. If I don't have those two things, I am not going to be a great husband. I
Yeah.
am not going to be a good father. I'm not going to be a good man or leader if I don't have those two elements right there are like the foundation of my house, right? My faith and my relationship with God and how I'm treating my body, because that overflows into my emotional mental state.
Yeah. 100%.
The other one is within my marriage, and I put my marriage as a higher priority than me being a parent. And I know that for some people, they're like, heck yeah, man. Like that's my camp. Right. And there are other people who are like what is wrong with you? It's all about the kids. You know what? I challenge that just a little bit, and I'll share with you why. And right or wrong. Like, I mean, if my way doesn't work for you, then that's fine. All I know is I know this way does work. So like in my marriage, right? Like my wife and I call them, there are 4 pillars, right? It's the self, like, hey, what is she like right now? She's at the gym, right? She's taking care of herself so she can selflessly serve me and our family and her world better, right?
Yeah.
So self. The other thing is our friendship, how are we operating as friends? Like, yes, we're lovers and all that good stuff, but like, hey, she's my battle buddy. Like, what's our friendship like? Our partnership, that's like, what lanes do we stay in here? Like, what roles do you have in this relationship and the household duties and all that? And what is my responsibility here,
Sure.
right? And how do we optimize that? And then the final one is lovers, right?
Mhm.
And that is like the physical, intimate, emotional connection that we have with each other, right? How often are we having sex? Like, how often are we having conversations? Like, how often do we go on a date night,
Sure.
right? Like, things like that are so important. So that's marriage. And when I can optimize those 4 areas of my marriage, man, life feels really, really good, right? The next part is really the relationship with my kids, right? And the reason I put my kids second, and I'm talking like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction
Yeah.
under my wife,
We're
right?
not putting them way down here.
We're not.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I know you have a broken arm, but me and mom have a date night, right? That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But what I am saying is my wife and I we have this expectation of ourselves and our relationship. And that is, my boys, like, if you think your world needs to be all about your kids, you might be missing on some serious things, like giving them the gift of showing them what an incredible marriage looks like.
Wow.
My boys need to learn how to treat a woman by how I treat their mom. My boys need to understand what to tolerate by how watching their mom treats me, right? Which she treats me amazing. And my wife will tell you, she's like, I need to set the bar high. I'm going to treat my husband with respect, with appreciation, with love and affection, because that is what my boys will absolutely expect. And if I show them less than that, they're going to expect less than that. And that is not acceptable to me. That's not acceptable, so there's that. But the connection with my kids, I want to create an environment of psychological safety. I want to create conversational excellence. I want to create a way where my kids feel awesome telling me about the good things in their life. They feel super safe telling me the bad. My whole mission is for me, and I became this a month ago. I want to be my kids' 3 a.m. call. And there's a lot that goes into that, right? For a kid to be 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, bad decisions were made, and he's got that phone in his hand, or she's got that phone in her hand, and she's deciding, do I get behind the wheel of this car, or do I call my dad?
Right.
Because my dad is the guy that when things go bad and when feces is hitting the oscillating fan and I'm on the other side of it, do I run and not tell my dad, or do I get on the phone and say, I need you? And my response is, I'll be right there. Right. So there's that connection, those core memories of my kids. And the last and final thing is leadership. I am so curious about constantly refining my leadership skills, because I have to lead myself. I have to lead my team within my business. I have a team of over 60 people. I have to lead in my marriage. I have to lead within my kids. And if I'm not doing that, man, I am not showing my kids a solid example of what it means to lead yourself, lead within the family, lead within your community. And that could be a huge miss as well.
I love those 4 points. And I think that kind of wraps up, an encapsulated view of what it looks like to be successful as a man and as a human being. Um, and one of the exercises I do with the men that I coach is I say, all right, how do you want to be remembered? Right. Thinking about legacy,
Great
thinking about a
question.
lot of those things that, that you've mentioned. And then kind of working backwards from there. So if this is how you want to be remembered, and I'm going to say, for example, if you want to be your kid's 3 a.m. call, if you want to, have a thriving marriage, if that's how you want to be remembered, then what are the things you're doing every day to get you there? Right.
Yeah.
And so could you share with us a little bit about kind of what your routine looks like? You shared a little bit on the physical side of things. But can you share with us, if that's your view of success and that's what you're aiming towards, like what are you doing daily to kind of work yourself towards that?
So I'll start with the physical part, right?
Mm.
So the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is usually what I do is I pray.
Mm.
I actually have this small little figurine. And it's because it makes me smile. It's one of those things that I just kind of like look at it in the morning and I smile. It's this little wooden figurine of Jesus, and he sits right there on my bathroom sink. Because the first thing I do when I get up is I put my shoes on, put my gym clothes on, go brush my teeth, and he's right there.
Mm.
And as I'm brushing my teeth, I pray, and I give gratitude, and I give gratitude and the gift of another day. And I like literally look at that figurine as I'm brushing my teeth, and I just have this conversation with God, right?
Yeah.
And then I go to the gym, and what I do is in the gym is I'll pray between sets. I'll actually get in connection with my creator, right? And some days I'm great at it, and some days it's not even on my radar. But for the most part, like at least I have that daily conversation as I'm brushing my teeth.
Sure.
So that's I fitness, fuel, faith in the morning, pretty much before my kids even are awake, right? I usually start my work day right around 8 a.m. And it just depends on the day. Mondays, I'm podcasting and doing media all day long. And then usually Tuesday through Friday, I'm doing masterminding. And then by 11 o'clock on Fridays, I'm done with work. And that's a date day with my wife. Every single Friday during the day while the kids are in school, that's a date day with my wife. We'll either go on a hike, we'll go out to lunch, we'll run errands together. Sometimes we'll do something active together. It just totally depends, but that's my routine.
Yeah, I love that.
My routine also is when my kids come home, we have conversations. We have one thing that I can hang my hat on is we have a super tight, close family, and my kids love to be here. And I'm a blessed man to say that.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't been doing this work, it'd be the opposite. They probably would never want to be here. But my conversations with my kids are, like I want to know like what's been the best part of your day? Like share a story with me, right? What's been something that's been insanely hard for you today? Like what'd you learn from it? Like I want to get my kids so used to that word failure and hard things and challenging things. It doesn't matter because we're all going to be faced with challenging things. It's how did you handle it? Right? What'd you learn?
Right.
At night, you'll find me. My wife always jokes with me. She's like, you take the longest time to say goodnight to these children. It's like an hour and 15-minute routine. And it's true because like I'll sit, with my 10-year-old, my 8-year-old, and even the 18-year-old and the 16-year-old. I'll sit with them for at least 10, 15, 20 minutes each. And we just talk and laugh and that kind of thing. And sometimes it's reading a bedtime story to my 8-year-old. Sometimes it's tickling him and wrestling him to death. And the same thing with my 10-year-old. Sometimes it's just literally sitting next to my 16-year-old as he's playing Minecraft. And sometimes we might only say 10 words, but I'm sitting with him and I'm with him. Presence. Or sometimes we have an in-depth conversation. Yeah. My 18-year-old, his two favorite words are "let's talk." And I can't even believe that I have an 18-year-old that wants to talk every single day. Like we joke about it. Like when I go to say goodnight to him, he's like, "Let's talk." And I'm like, "All right, let's talk." But that is my routine, and right now, we're in a season. I'll just share this with you. Our core values and as a family is connection over everything. Yeah. Right. You won't find my kids taking on more than one activity at a time because it takes away from our time together. So my kids are not in 2 and 3 sports at a time. Each of them do one activity. we're actually in a season right now where out of the 18 years I've been a father, it is the busiest first semester of school we've ever had. So my oldest is the drum major for the high school marching band, so he's leading the whole band. My 16-year-old is the starting center for the football team. My 10-year-old just started tackle football, and my 8-year-old just started hockey.
Wow.
And like our calendar has never been more full. And I got to be honest, it's not the most pleasant thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first year we've been this busy, and I'm finding that we're having less and less family dinners together, which is really not sitting well with me. But my wife and I keep saying, okay, like, listen, we're going to do this. Lesson learned. We'll do this until, November. But this is not something that is going to be sustainable, for us moving forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And realizing that, I think, is important. And one of the things I love about everything you've been talking about is the fact that this is a process, right? I don't know that there's an ultimate destination that we ultimately reach and say, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm done growing. I'm done learning. I've reached the epitome of who I want to be. I think it's all a process, and that's exactly what you're laying out for us. You're here, telling us about all the, major intentional decisions that you've made in becoming the person that you want to be. And, I think a lot of times we look at other people and we say, man, they've got it figured out. But it's really encouraging to hear people come on and, hey, I don't have it all figured out. It's still a process. We're still learning as we go because, hey, life's always going to throw you something different. Life's always going to give you, like you said, hardships. The question is, how are you going to handle it? The question is, how are you going, what are you going to learn from it? And so I love that you share that. It shows us that there are seasons in life, and we just have to navigate those as they come. So, you've defined success for us. You've showed us kind of what you do on a daily basis to work towards that. In your experience, as you've been doing this a long time, coaching men and inviting men in and coming alongside as a guide, what's the biggest hindrance to men reaching their potential, in your opinion?
It's the man that stares at them in the mirror every single day. So, I see a lot of different behaviors with men, right? And I'm one of them. Like I've been all of these things, right? I think it might be interesting. And by the way, this is not my content, but I saw it one time and I'm like, oh yeah, and there it is, right there. Like we can identify with one of these three men, right? So I saw this Instagram clip. This was probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I just couldn't get enough of it. So I'm like, man, that is so true. So there's 3 types of men. One is the victim, right? One is the victim. The victim, and many of us, if you really think about it, like we could actually be an executor and someone who's crushing it in a certain area of our life and a victim in another, right? Being a victim doesn't necessarily mean I'm a victim of everything. It can mean I'm a victim of everything, or I'm a victim of some things, or I'm a victim of a lot of things or small things or whatever. But so let me give you an example. A victim will tell you every single reason why they can't have what it is that they truly want.
Yeah.
So like they'll tell you like, hey, I'm not a patient father because I grew up without a father. And here's the funny thing. We subconsciously will proactively look for proof that BS story is true.
Yep.
So we'll go and we'll self-sabotage. Like if that's our story, if that is the actual, the brain is the hardware, the mind is the software. And if you're not upgrading your software, then you are subject to whatever default that you think your story is. And whatever story we're telling ourselves becomes that operating system. Yeah. So if I say to myself, like I did 12 years ago, well, I can't be a patient father because I didn't have one. There's no way we can have a successful marriage because all I saw was disaster. Yeah. And then as soon as my wife and I would have a fight, I'd be like, see, look, or I'd blow up at my kids, be like, I told you I'm not a patient father. So it's like, we look for the proof, right?
You look for the evidence.
You do. Now let's think about it a different way. You might be, and by the way, I have clients like this, they build an empire of business, 8-9 figures in the bank, but they are a disaster in their physical fitness. Like they're fat, they're out of shape, they have diabetes, they don't have a good marriage, they have no connection with their kids, but they're killing it in business.
Right.
But they're a victim in these other areas, right? Or take the guy who's super fit and really poor, right? Or all these things. So that's the victim, right? We have a story, we buy into the story, and we proactively self-sabotage ourselves. And then we look for the proof and we're like, see, I told you I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
right?
That's good.
Then there's the content zombie. That's man number 2. The content zombie. Now that sounds like a dig or an insult. It kind of isn't, because the content zombie has finally said, I'm done being a victim. Done. I'm doing something different. And what that content zombie does is, this is the guy that starts binging YouTube videos, podcasts. This is the guy that listens to 2, 3, 4, 5-hour podcasts a day. Right. And I love that, because that was me too. In 2008 and 2009, when I wanted to start turning things around, when I started kind of dipping my toe in the water of personal development, I'm like, I'm going to listen to this podcast. I'm going to read this book or whatever. But there's not a whole lot in your life that starts to change. You just are more aware of the things that are probably wrong, broken, or missing. Right. And there might be some things that you'll go out and try to do, I just learned what emotional validation was from this podcast with my wife. I'm going to go try that. But it never, ever gets sticky. You're like, I'm just going to try this. Okay, I tried it. Okay, I'm going to try that. Okay, I tried it. And then it's a lot of guesswork.
So the kind of self-awareness, but no real action. Yeah.
But no real action.
Yeah.
The third man is the executor. And the executor is like, okay, I'm done being the victim. I'm done just taking in content. Now I'm going to go execute, and I'm going to go execute with absolute fury, with ruthless accountability, right? With other people. These are the people is you know what? If I want a better marriage, I'm going to take my wife out on a weekly date for the next 8 weeks.
Wow.
And I'm going to get with a community or friends or an accountability group, and they're going to hold me to that standard, that every Friday afternoon I have a standing date with my wife, no exceptions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do that, right? Or it can be I'm going to do 75 hard, and come hell or high water, I'm going to execute upon these 6 rules every single day without fail, right? That's the guy that takes ridiculous action. He doesn't sit there and let's just take 75 hard for the final example. Some guys are like, well, that's 75 hard. I can never do that. I've never been an athletic person. And, I've tried working out in the past, and I get started and then I just don't stick with it. Right. That's the victim. And then, the content zombie is like, I should really, really try that. Look at that. I think maybe I'll try to work out a little bit, or maybe I'll try to drink that gallon of water every day, or maybe I'll, see what it's like to eat right for a few days. But then the executor is like, nope, not on my watch. This is going to happen. Right. And those are the 3 guys.
You've got to become the executor. If you're gonna see results in your life, it's not enough to just know what to do. I found myself in that area for a lot of my life, but you've got to be able to put action to your words, action to the knowledge, and make it happen. Absolutely love that. Yeah. Well, Larry, this has been a privilege and an honor. How can my listeners find you? How can they enter into your world? Tell us about a few of the options. Tell us about your books. Love to hear kind of what you've got going on.
Sure. I think there's really 3 ways that you can engage with what we do. Number 1, you can just start listening to the podcast. Right? If you want to become a content zombie, I've got 1,220 episodes just out there for you. Right?
Sure. And it's good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But no, if you want to, easiest thing to do is start listening to the podcast. Right? The second thing to do is you can download a free resource from our website. So if you go to thedadedge.com, you'll see right there on the homepage, I've got 21 Days to an Extraordinary Marriage. If you click on the resources section on the nav bar, you'll see, training in there for marriage, for being fully present with your kids. I've got a course on how to become a more patient, resilient father. I even have a full blown out course on creating extraordinary marriage through elevated communication, connection, and intimacy. So I've got all those things on the website. If group coaching and you're like, you know what, I don't want to mess around with being a victim. I don't want to mess around with being a content zombie. I want to go straight to being an executor. Come check out what we do in our group coaching in the mastermind. You can find all that at thedadedge.com/mastermind. We have 2 different programs. One is for business owners. We call that the boardroom. So you have to own a business in order to be a part of that group. And then we have the Alliance, which is more of our career guys. So those are the 2 paths. And then the third path is, and I only take on 5 one-on-one clients at a time. And right now I'm full. But another way to work with me is one-on-one, and I do that for 3 months at a time.
Cool. So you've got the Dad Edge book. Then you've got a brand new one that hasn't been out long. Can you talk about those just a tad?
Yeah, so it's Spirit of Fatherhood, which is right here. That just came out May 28th. It's my latest book. I have, I've got 4 books. One is Spirit of Fatherhood. One's The Dad Edge, and a few kid books. Yeah. I've got Daddy Will Always Love You and Protect You. I wrote that book for a dad to read to his kids, and then Screen Time: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which you can read to your kid, and it's a very unintrusive way to share with your kid all the good things and all the not so good things that they're probably experiencing with too much screen time. It also reminds us as fathers.
Yeah, good stuff.
But yeah, you can find all those on Amazon or wherever you buy books.
You guys check out Larry. He's making an impact in the world, one man at a time. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Sure been a pleasure to have you here on the show. Thank you for listening to the RevRx podcast. We hope you enjoyed what you heard today, and if so, we'd love it if you would hit that subscribe button so that you'll never miss a new episode from us. Also, feel free to leave us reviews and comments, as we'd love to hear from you. Be blessed and be the very best you.